Imagine two people beginning life on the very same day. 40 years later, one is a millionaire. The other still struggles to pay the bills. What created such a huge difference? It wasn't luck. It wasn't talent. And it wasn't simply working harder. The real answer is hidden in the financial choices they made every single day. Here's the first secret. Income and wealth are not the same thing. Someone earning $100,000 every year can still be broke, while someone earning much less can quietly become financially independent. Because income tells you how much money comes in. Wealth tells you how much money stays and continues growing. Think about your paycheck. The moment it arrives, it immediately starts disappearing. Rent, food, utilities, transportation, entertainment, subscriptions, shopping. Within days, most of it is gone. Then another month begins. And the cycle repeats again. Now imagine another person receiving the exact same paycheck. Instead of spending every extra dollar, they quietly buy one small investment. Then another. Then another. Nothing exciting happens at first. Their life still looks ordinary. But beneath the surface, everything has already begun changing. This is where almost everyone makes their biggest financial mistake. They believe more income automatically creates more wealth. But in reality, more income often creates more spending. A bigger salary becomes a bigger house, a newer car, more expensive vacations, designer clothes, luxury gadgets. Without realizing it, lifestyle grows just as fast as income. The wealthy usually think differently. Before buying something that loses value, they ask themselves one simple question. Will this make me richer or poorer? That single question quietly changes every financial decision they make. And over time, it completely transforms their future. Imagine every dollar you earn. As a tiny employee, most people send those employees shopping. The wealthy send those employees to work, buying businesses, purchasing investments, owning assets, creating even more employees. Soon, money begins producing more money, without requiring more hours of work. At first, the difference is almost invisible. One person enjoys slightly nicer things. The other quietly builds slightly larger investments. From the outside, they look almost identical. But year after year, that tiny difference keeps growing. Until one day, it becomes impossible to ignore. And this is only the beginning. Because the next mistake is even more dangerous. It's the invisible habit that silently keeps millions of hardworking people from ever reaching financial freedom. Most people don't even realize they're trapped. Until it's far too late. The trap has a name. Lifestyle inflation. It happens so slowly. Most people never notice it. Every raise feels like permission to spend a little more. A bigger apartment. A newer car. More expensive vacations. Better restaurants. Soon, the extra income disappears. Almost as quickly as it arrived. Imagine climbing a mountain. Every time you reach a new level, the mountain grows taller. That's exactly how lifestyle inflation works. No matter how much more you earn, your expenses quietly rise alongside your income. The finish line keeps moving. And financial freedom stays just out of reach. Now imagine two friends. Both receive the same promotion. The first celebrates by financing a luxury SUV. The second invests the extra income into index funds. 5 years later, one still has monthly payments. The other owns an investment portfolio that continues growing. The promotion changed both lives, just in completely different ways. This is why millionaires don't see money the way most people do. They don't ask, "What can I buy?" They ask, "What can I own?" That small shift changes everything. Because ownership creates opportunity. Consumption creates temporary satisfaction. Think about planting a single seed. The first year, almost nothing seems to happen. The second year, growth is still slow. Many people become impatient. They stop watering the seed, never realizing the strongest growth happens beneath the surface first. Investing works exactly the same way. The beginning feels boring. Your portfolio grows slowly. The numbers barely change. It doesn't feel exciting. But every contribution builds the foundation for something much bigger. The people who stay patient usually win. Now imagine your money as a team of workers. Every investment you make hires another employee. Each employee earns money, then hires another employee. Soon, you have hundreds of tiny workers, generating income every single day, even while you're doing absolutely nothing. Most people believe millionaires earn more because they're smarter. But intelligence alone isn't the answer. Many brilliant people struggle financially, while others with average intelligence quietly build enormous wealth. The difference isn't IQ. It's financial behavior repeated consistently for years. This is where time becomes your greatest advantage. Every year you delay investing is a year your money loses the chance to grow. Time cannot be recovered. Money often can. That's why the wealthiest investors value time more than almost anything else. Imagine two clocks starting at different moments. One begins investing at 25. The other waits until 35. Both invest the same amount every month. The earlier investor finishes with dramatically more wealth. Not because they invested more money, but because they invested more time. The wealthy understand something most people overlook. Small decisions, repeated thousands of times, become extraordinary results. Skipping one unnecessary purchase won't make you rich. But making smarter financial choices, again and again, for decades, can completely transform your future. And we've only uncovered part of the story. Because the next lesson explains why money itself can become the hardest working employee you'll ever have. Once you understand this principle, you'll begin seeing wealth in an entirely different way. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that your investments earn more money overnight than you earned at your job. It sounds impossible. Yet for millions of investors around the world, that's simply another ordinary morning. Because at some point, money stops being something you earn and starts becoming something you own. This is the moment most people never reach. They spend their entire lives working for money, instead of reaching the day when money finally begins working for them. That single transition separates financial survival from financial freedom. Think about the world's biggest companies. They don't become richer because they save every dollar. They become richer because they own valuable assets. Businesses, technology, real estate, intellectual property. Every asset continues producing value long after it has been created. That's the true power of ownership. Now imagine buying a single apartment. At first, it only produces a small amount of rental income. But over the years, that income helps purchase another apartment. Then another. Eventually, one investment quietly begins creating an entire portfolio. Not overnight, but step by step. The stock market works in a surprisingly similar way. Every dividend received can buy more shares. Those new shares generate even more dividends, which purchase even more investments. The cycle repeats itself again and again until growth begins accelerating almost automatically. This is called compound growth. Albert Einstein is often credited with calling compound interest one of the world's most powerful forces, although the quote itself is debated. Regardless of who first said it, the principle remains true. Growth builds upon previous growth. And that's exactly how wealth quietly multiplies over time. Unfortunately, most people interrupt that process far too early. The moment their investments finally begin growing, they cash out, spend the profits, or abandon the plan completely, never realizing they stopped the snowball just before it became unstoppable. Patience is one of the rarest financial skills. We live in a world that rewards speed, instant shopping, instant entertainment, instant delivery. But wealth follows a completely different schedule. It rewards consistency, not urgency. Imagine planting 100 trees. You wouldn't dig them up every week to check whether the roots are growing. You simply water them, protect them, and trust the process. Successful investing requires exactly the same mindset. The wealthiest investors understand something powerful. The greatest returns rarely happen during the first few years. They happen after decades of disciplined investing. Time quietly becomes their business partner, working every hour, every day, every year. This is why financial education matters so much. Learning how businesses work, understanding investments, managing risk, recognizing opportunities. These skills often produce greater long-term rewards than simply working longer hours. Knowledge creates better decisions, and better decisions create greater wealth. Now the picture is becoming clearer. Millionaires aren't usually people who discovered a secret shortcut. They're people who consistently followed simple financial principles for far longer than most people were willing to. And the final lesson may be the most important of them all. Now let's answer the biggest question. If becoming a millionaire isn't about luck, then what is it about? The answer is surprisingly simple. It's about making thousands of small financial decisions that all move in the same direction. One decision won't change your life, but thousands of them absolutely will. The people who build wealth rarely make perfect decisions. They make mistakes, lose money, choose bad investments. Even successful entrepreneurs fail. The difference is, they learn from every mistake, instead of letting one failure define their future. Progress always beats perfection. Many people believe they need a huge salary before they can invest. But history proves otherwise. Some of the world's wealthiest investors started with ordinary incomes. What separated them wasn't the size of their paycheck. It was the habit of investing consistently, no matter how small the amount. Imagine two buckets. One bucket has a tiny hole. The other has no hole at all. You can keep pouring more water into the leaking bucket, but it will never stay full. That's exactly what happens when spending grows faster than saving. Before earning more, sometimes the smarter decision is simply leaking less. The truth is, millionaires don't chase every opportunity. They become incredibly selective. They understand that saying yes to one purchase often means saying no to a future investment. Every financial decision has an opportunity cost. And the wealthy think about that cost before spending. Look closely at truly wealthy people. Many drive ordinary cars. Wear simple clothes. And avoid unnecessary attention. Not because they can't afford luxury, but because they understand something deeper. Looking rich and becoming rich are two completely different goals. Real wealth creates something money alone never can. Freedom. The freedom to choose how you spend your mornings, who you work with, where you live, when you travel, and how much time you spend with the people you love. That's what millionaires are really buying. Not expensive things, but control over their own lives. This is why financial education is one of the greatest investments anyone can make. The more you understand businesses, investing, taxes, assets, and compound growth, the better your financial decisions become. Knowledge doesn't guarantee wealth, but ignorance almost guarantees expensive mistakes. And here's the surprising part. The journey to becoming a millionaire doesn't begin when you earn your first $1 million. It begins the moment you decide to think differently about money. Every billionaire, every millionaire, and every successful investor once stood exactly where you are today. They didn't begin with perfect knowledge. They didn't have all the answers. They simply made one decision: to start. Because every great fortune begins with a single financial choice. Imagine looking back 20 years from now. Will you remember the expensive gadgets, the luxury purchases, or the countless things that quickly lost their value? Probably not. But you'll always remember the investments that changed your future. Because the greatest rewards in life usually come from the decisions that require patience. Money itself isn't the goal. Money is simply a tool. A tool that can buy time, create opportunities, protect your family, support your dreams, help others, and give you the freedom to live life on your own terms. That's the kind of wealth that truly matters. So, why will 99% of people never become millionaires? Not because they aren't intelligent. Not because they aren't hardworking. And certainly not because success is reserved for a lucky few. Most people never become millionaires because they never allow their financial habits to change before their income does. The people who quietly build wealth understand one simple principle. Every dollar has a purpose. Some dollars are spent. Some dollars are saved. But the most valuable dollars are the ones invested, because those dollars return with friends. Remember, the road to wealth isn't built in a single day. It's built one decision at a time. One investment at a time. One lesson at a time. 1 year at a time. Small actions, repeated consistently, create extraordinary outcomes. You don't need to earn millions to start building wealth. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need to predict the future. You simply need the discipline to begin. Because time rewards those who take action, not those who wait for perfect conditions. The greatest investment you'll ever make isn't in a company, a stock, or a piece of real estate. It's in your financial education. Because once you understand how money truly works, you'll never see the world the same way again. If this documentary changed the way you think about money, then don't let it end here. Take one lesson. Apply it. Keep learning. Keep investing. Keep improving. Because financial freedom isn't reserved for a select few. It's built by people who make better decisions. Again and again. One day, someone will ask why your financial life turned out differently. They'll think it was luck, perfect timing, or some hidden secret. But you'll know the truth. Wealth wasn't created overnight. It was built through patience, discipline, knowledge, and countless small decisions that most people never made. The world's wealthiest people don't have more hours in a day than you do. They simply use those hours differently. They spend less time impressing others, and more time building assets. Less time chasing money, and more time creating systems that generate it. That's the quiet difference that changes everything. The question was never, can you become a millionaire? The real question is, will you make the choices that millionaires make? Long before the results appear? Because that's where every fortune truly begins. The next financial decision you make could be the first domino in a chain of decisions that completely transforms your future. Your future wealth starts with today's habits, not tomorrow's paycheck. Thank you for watching Asset Breakdown. If you enjoyed this documentary, support the channel by liking this video, sharing it with someone who wants to build wealth, and subscribing for more in-depth finance documentaries every week. Until next time, remember, the goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to build lasting wealth. We'll see you in the next breakdown.